I wonder why 8-inch wide boards are not 8 inches. I have to get a 10-inch wide board to make an 8-inch wide sign because a 10-inch board is only a little over 9 inches. Make sense? Absolutely not. So I'd rather they cut it than me have to cut it, but that's the way it is. So I'm cutting this board down to 24 inches. I'm making a custom order sign, and those were the specs of the customer, to be 24 inches long and 8 inches wide. So this didn't go through my miter saw because I can't pull it for me. It's not a sliding saw. So I have to reposition it so that I cut it twice. But I still like the nice smooth cut that a miter saw makes. I'm really making sure it's lined up so that I do get a nice smooth cut. And when I'm cutting a wide board, I always like to make sure that guide is down so that it doesn't shift on me. I measure down 2 inches on each side so that I can do a curved top using a wooden plate that I have. And then I remember that I forgot to cut that extra inch off the side to make it an 8-inch board. Patience is a virtue. So I'm just making the measurements so I can cut that board down, and that of course will not fit in my miter saw, so I am going to use my jigsaw. I'm drawing a nice straight line using my other board that I couldn't use. Now I repeat that process. I'm measuring 2 inches down on each side. Then I use a wooden plate, putting it on the 2-inch side and drawing the curve. I then measure halfway across the board, which is 4 inches, and then use an even smaller plate to draw yet another curve. I use the jigsaw and cut out that shape. I then repeat the same process on the other end. I sand down all the rough spots and the surface just to make it smooth for painting. I'm going to use one of my favorites, sawmill gravy, and that's the trick when a paint jar won't open. turn it upside down and slam it around a few times. So I love this color. I think it's really going to be a good backdrop. The only direction color-wise that the customers gave me was hunter green and burgundy. So they said their house was gray. So I thought if I did the dark background, that might be too much. So I thought I would play those colors off of a neutral. I like the knots in the board, and if they bleed through at some point, I'm okay with that. Because obviously, they also asked for a rusty star. So they like the primitive look, so I think that will be just perfect. So I go around the edges first, and then I lay it down and do the front of it. Next, I used Dixie Belle's new color, English Ivy. It's one of the new cottage colors, and I'm going to use a JRV or Jamie Ray Vintage stencil and do a grainsack stripe down the middle. I'm just holding the stencil. I probably should tape it or use adhesive, but I'm just carefully holding it. I am being really careful to offload most of the paint because we all know that when the stencil, especially when you're just holding it, isn't down properly, that the paint can seep underneath the stencil. So if you have excess paint on the brush, that's more likely to happen. So I'm trying to be careful not to let that happen. See how the stencil can move? But if it does happen, I can certainly touch it up with the sawmill gravy. Next, I sand that down a little bit. I decided to use caviar for the lettering because I feel like if I just use the burgundy color, that it might look too Christmassy and that you might not see it as well. But I will tell you that I do change my mind on this step. I am using JRV. These are the farmhouse letters, I believe, stencil on this one. These were the biggest numbers that I could find, and the customers requested that the numbers be big, that they could be seen from at least 15 feet away. So I did a little research, and this numbers that are 3 inches can be seen anywhere from 50 to 100 feet away. So we were good on size, but I just wanted to make sure that the customers were satisfied, so I let them know that. But I decided to change my mind on this step because after I'm done, I look at it, and because the numbers are so linear, they kind of get lost on that grainsack stripe. So I'm not 100% sure if I filmed it, but I end up blocking off and making a little curve, just like the top, a little in the burgundy color, which I'm using Dixie Belle's Muscadine Wine to block it off, and then I end up doing the numbers in the sawmill gravy. So this step was kind of for nothing, but that's how you learn. So you can see it up top there. It kind of gets a little lost. I had some other stencils that I used to put Established 2009 down at the bottom because I felt like they were the appropriate size. It was just a plastic stencil. I don't know where it came from. It might have been just in one of my kids' pencil cases at some point. This stencil came from Wish, and it's just the cursive alphabet, so I am doing the EST for established using that. Another stencil, this one was just from the craft store, I believe, I used to spell out the customers' names. Obviously, I'm not going to show you all that to protect their privacy, but I start in the middle. I figure out how many letters their name is and figure out what the middle is, whether it's one letter, in this case it was, so I know I can center it, or whether there's a space in the middle, then you center the space. So that's just the best way I have found to spell things out, is to just kind of center them. Of all the designs that I have, as far as molds and stamps, there are no stars. So I also didn't have any in stencil form that were this large, but I did have this glass dish, so it came in handy because I traced around my glass dish and then used Dixie Belle's muscadine wine and painted in there. That was what I chose for the burgundy color. And I decided that it needed a little rust on it, so I also used Dixie Belle's Rusty Nail and just kind of pounced a little bit. I think I came back in with a little bit of caviar as well, or I also think I used some Voodoo Gel Stain in the Tobacco Road. I was going to use the patina spray, but I opted not to. I thought I would just give it the look of a little bit of rust with the paint. I went over the stencils using a Sharpie. The reason I did that, I wanted to fill in the little spaces that you get a lot of times with stencils. They do that for the stability of the stencil, but I think it looks more hand painted if you get rid of those spaces. And it also makes the letters a little more crisp, so I just kind of went over them and I liked it a lot better. They showed up a lot more after I did that. I used Tobacco Road Voodoo Gel Stain from Dixie Belle and just used it along the edges to give it a distressed, worn look. I did that the entire way around the edges. Thank you so much for watching today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notifications bell so you don't miss a thing. Visit us at lavintagedecor.company. On Instagram, we're LaVintage Decor, and on Facebook, we're LaVintage Decor Altoona. Stay well.